you're in the market for tires, pizza, some steak, rotisserie chicken, large jars of mayonnaise, and perhaps even your next TV, you guessed it, we're going to Costco. Up next.
I've seen things people wouldn't believe.
Hey, what's up guys? I'm Brian. This is Tech Therapy. Thank you so much for joining me for today's Costco TV walkthrough. All kidding aside, I enjoy shopping at Costco, not just for the things that I mentioned, but also for technology, namely TVs. They do have an excellent selection at Costco, and they are one of the only wholesale clubs to carry high-end TVs. Also, they have tremendous value TVs to choose from as well. Any sizes from 42 inches all the way up to 100 inches that you can bring home today. So I want to show you the physical location. While they do have more options online, I want to show you what you can go get right now and bring home. Without further ado, let's check out my local Costco and hopefully your next TV. Thank you so much for watching. All right, guys, let's do it. Here we are at my local Costco. First off, we're going to take a look at Samsung and their QD OLED lineup, both the 65 and 77 inch models. You do have the older S90D tab here on the kiosk, but you do have them mixed up where you do have a 65 inch S90F, which is this year's model, with last year's S90D. But quickly, my favorite surprise of the day was seeing the Samsung The Frame here in store. Now, the Frame is actually Samsung's best-selling TV year after year. You can see this matte finish, which mimics artwork. Surprisingly to many of you guys, even with their highest end 8K TVs, the Frame is so popular for that aesthetic that you can put artwork on it, and it's awesome to see it actually here in a Costco. As I mentioned in the intro, having Costco carry more high-end, mid to high-end TVs really sets it apart from other wholesale clubs. Speaking of high-end and my most recommended TVs in this store, you're looking at Samsung's QD OLED lineup. The 77-inch S90D from last year is $19.99, which is insane, and actually cheaper than the 65-inch S90F, which is the current model. Now, without hesitation, I would recommend last year's S90D with this price difference. There's not a huge difference between last year's S90D and this year's S90F, but to see that S90D at $77 for that price is absolutely absurd. Now, leaving QD OLED for a moment and focusing on the Crystal series, you'll see these TVs littered all over wholesale clubs, even Walmart and Targets. However, there are big differences between the two. The specific one, the DU8000C, is 120 Hz, and while it's not a Neo QLED or a mini LED, this is the one out of that Crystal series that I would recommend simply because it has 120 Hz for the price. Also, 85 inches is excellent. Let's move over to the S90F now. Here is the price of the most recent model at 77 inches, and I'll compare that to last year's S90D. But the QD OLED lineup from Samsung, this is easily the best looking TV in the store, and it's really not close. Quantum dot OLEDs are amazing, and the S90D sits below the S95 flagship, but the S90D and S90F get close enough to easily be one of the best options out there, not just at Costco, but anywhere. Here it is in price compared to last year's 77-inch S90D. Now, the S90F, I do have it at home. It is excellent. For that price difference, you got to go for the S90D. As we glance back over at the 77-inch S90F and that incredible price, keep in mind that the S90D will not replenish. So you'll see that amazing price at 77 inches, and then they'll be gone. There's about 5 of them left here in stock. Now we'll glance over at another Crystal series, and this is why they're a little hard to recommend and they are confusing. Here you have a 60 Hz U8000F. It's only 60 Hz versus the 85-inch DU8000 that I showed you earlier. And then you also have this Q7, which is also only 60 Hz. So I would rather go with the DU8000 at 85 than the 7, because the 7 is an Neo QLED mini LED, and it is a little bit more on the pricey side compared to the Crystal series. But that's what you'll see in a lot of these stores, a lot of these Crystal Series Samsungs, and they are very confusing number-wise. The way to really delineate them is to check out the hertz. If you see 60 hertz, that's going to be a lower performing model than a 120 hertz TV. Here, glancing at Samsung's lineup, and again, QD OLED, absolutely beautiful. And it's the closest thing you're going to see to a flagship display in the store, though it isn't the flagship. It's close enough to the flagship S95F. Spending more time with Samsung as they do have more options than anyone else in this specific Costco. Now, my favorite Samsung LED in the store is actually last year's QN85D Neo QLED Mini LED. 75 inches, $12.99. I reviewed this TV last year at 85 inches. It is excellent. This is where you get into their Neo QLED Mini LED lineup. Quantum dots, excellent gaming features, beautiful TV all around. Which is why I recommend either going with the higher end Crystal series if you want an LED from Samsung, but skipping over the Q7 and jumping up to the QN85 if it's available. Now this year they do have the QN80, but not another 85 from what Samsung has told me, at least in the US. Here is another Crystal series, U8000F, which again is the same one at 60 hertz, and then another Q7. What is confusing for many people at Costco is you see rows and aisles of TVs, but primarily the only difference is from row to row are the different sizes. Let's take another quick look at the frame, which we've always joked is your wife's TV or your partner's TV, but it's definitely the one that someone else in your family is going to pick instead of you. Meaning if you're a home theater or TV enthusiast, that probably won't be your first choice. Here's some other Crystal series. Again, these are all very similar from one another in this price range. Samsung again has more options than anyone else in regards to the value-based TVs at Costco. Let's move on to LG. LG is close to my heart as they were the first manufacturer to put high-end TVs in a Costco or any of the other wholesale clubs. We have the LG C5 here at both 77 inches and 65. I should say they were also the first OLEDs to be in any type of budget or wholesale club. The LG C series is a WOLED and it is a very consistent product, excellent year after year. This year, the C5 is also very bright, amazing image quality, and excellent gaming features. Over here, you have the 65-inch box right next to last year's 77-inch LG C4. Now, the difference between QD OLED and WOLED we'll talk about in a moment, but the price difference between the 77-inch C4 at $24.99, let's go back over to the C5. At 77 inches, I would definitely grab the C5, where the QD OLED S90F and S90D from last year, their prices were very far apart. Here, they're very close, and I would easily choose the 77-inch C5 over the slightly cheaper 77-inch C4. Now with WOLED versus QD OLED, the difference is more color on the QD OLED and a brighter image on the QD OLED, though the C5 again is very bright. Now as far as LG's mini LEDs or LEDs, I really don't recommend any of them below the QNED lineup, which isn't in this specific Costco. Here is a smaller LG C5. So when it comes to LG, if it doesn't say QNED, I would really stick with their OLED lineup no matter where you are. You cannot go wrong with the C series. And if you can find it, the B series you will see in a lot of Costco's, either the B4 or the new B5. I've just never been a fan of their LED lineup below that QNED group. The image quality is not great. They're not very bright. If you see QNED, definitely investigate that. Some Costco's will have one of those models. And again, keep an eye out for the B series in other Costco's. But the C5 is excellent. Now, what's comparable to the QD OLEDs would be the G series. Though for many of you, the C series and QD OLEDs will look very similar. Enthusiasts really know the difference. Can't go wrong with the C series, but the more comparable version is the G5. Let's move on to Sony. Now, Sony is very interesting in this specific Costco. They have the Sony Bravia 3, which is their entry level. There is a Bravia 2 this year. The Bravia 3 is actually their most popular model. Here you can really see the differences between a 75-inch TV and an 85-inch TV. Now, the Bravia 3 does not have the same processor as the next models up, being the XR cognitive processor, but it still is an excellent Sony product. Here you are at 85 inches. It does look very good. It does still have very good processing. But Sony's availability and what models are in Costco varies more than any other manufacturer in the store today. It's been amazing seeing Sony in Costco in the last number of years. Not only are they one of the best TV manufacturers out there, they have one of the best processors and they are known for their reliability. Here is one of the most popular models in the last number of years, a Sony X90L, which is a full array local dimming LED, which carries over not just from last year, but the year before. It is one of the most popular, and what I love about Sony is their top-end processor is available in all of their tiers, starting with the X90 series. This TV has been replaced by the Sony Bravia 5 Mini LED, which you may see soon in Costco. I'm not sure. Another great TV that will be here until they run out of inventory. Here is the Sony Bravia 8 at 77 inches. This is a WOLED similar to the LG C series. This carries over again from last year. Excellent TV. I own it myself. It is rather expensive, but it is coming down in price as you're seeing it here at 77 inches. Again, with Sony, what you're looking for and what you will get is reliability as well as the best processing in the industry, certainly the best processing that you're going to see in Costco. Here we are comparing it to the 77-inch S90F QD OLED. Keep in mind the Bravia 8 is last year's model, which is carrying over. Sony does have a Quantum Dot OLED, which is their flagship, which is the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II, which isn't available at Costco. You may also find a Sony Bravia 7 Mini LED, which is also excellent in your local Costco. Here is also a Bravia 8 at 65 inches. Keep an eye on the Bravia 8W OLED as it falls in price. It is a gorgeous OLED, again, with the best processing in the store. Moving over to TCL, which has a heavyweight rock star in this specific Costco. They have the 98-inch QM6K Pro. This is a Quantum Dot Mini LED for $2,000, again at 98 inches. And the QM6K itself is one of my favorite TVs of 2025, regardless of being in Costco or even going against very high-end TVs. You have the best value-based TV in the business with high-end specs. Quantum Dot Mini LED, 144 Hertz, here at 98 inches. But this is the QM6K Pro. This is a Costco variant with some of the qualities of the step-up QM7K. QM6K typically has a matte screen at 98 inches. The Costco version has the glossy screen from the higher-end QM7K. TCL has really mastered the ability to give you high-end specs and quality for an incredible value. And I didn't see many of their TVs of this level in Costco or any other wholesale club. They also snuck in this TCL Q7. Now, if you look at the price point of the Q7 and the fact that it's a 144 Hertz panel, it really cannot be beat by any other TV in the store for this price point, and again, the specs that come with it. For years, you would see the S series and some of the lower end TCLs that I would never recommend, but now you have these two models, absolute killer. Highly recommend both the TCL Q7. Look at the specs on the Q7 here and the price at 55 inches versus the LG variant. By variant, I mean similar type TVs, but you have the TCL with much higher specs and it's even cheaper. Let's move on to the other massive rock star of the day, Hisense. And not to be outdone by TCL, Hisense rolls in with a 100-inch U6 OLED Mini LED. This TV is also absolutely amazing. You have a 100-inch ULED mini LED from Hisense for freaking $2,000. $21.99, and it's compared to the 98-inch, which is slightly cheaper, but 100 inches is no joke. And I'm kind of laughing to myself because, again, with Hisense, like TCL, you're getting quantum dots, you're also getting 144 hertz, very high-end specs for this absurd amount of money. This TV is 100 inches, and it is the same price or cheaper than other TVs in the store at 65 inches. Think about that for a moment. But what you have now with the ULED mini LED U6 is mini LED technology. It's not a standard LED. These TVs are absolutely beautiful. Hisense is also absolutely killing it this year. Also great to see their new sound system accompanying the U6 ULED mini LED. Now, this is really the only other model they would have at any kind of wholesale club throughout the years, the Hisense QD. And I would literally tell Hisense, how come you don't have these other TVs in store? And boom, they roll up with a 100-inch U6 mini LED. But this is also their other very popular model that you've seen at wholesale clubs and other more value-based retailers. But Hisense, again, absolutely killing it. U6 is awesome. Now, I know walking into these stores can be daunting, and I'll wrap up my favorite TVs at the very end. But again, keep in mind that each manufacturer has different TVs in different locations, and Costco is the one that really dictates what they want in each store. So you might not see these same models, but you should see ones that are similar. So we will wrap up again my favorite TVs, the ones I most recommend. Here we'll start with the Samsung S90F at 77 inches. Now, the S90F's price will fall once the inventory for the S90D is gone. But for the price of the S90D at 77 inches, you cannot beat that for a quantum dot OLED. Absolutely incredible price for an amazing TV. And if you can find it, the Samsung QN85D Neo QLED Mini LED is their best LED or mini LED in store. Absolutely love this TV. Another one that's highly recommended. For LG, the LG C5 at any size, and as well as the LG C4 if it drops more in price. And also keep your eye out for the LG B series, which is also excellent. You'll see those in Costco's at 83 inches. I'd only grab the C4 if it drops a lot in price farther from the C5. Also, we have the TCL QM6K Pro at 98 inches. Absurd price for a TV of this quality. You can probably grab these smaller sizes online. One of my favorite TVs of the year overall. I still can't believe we have TVs at this size, at this price. Moving over to the Hisense 100-inch U6 ULED Mini LED, another phenomenal TV with high-end specs. Highly recommended. Look at that price for a 100-inch Mini LED. We'll swing back over to TCL for the Q7. Again, the best value-based TV in the store with 144 hertz. And lastly, from Sony, you do have the Bravia 3. I do like it at 85 inches. You do have excellent processing and reliability with Sony, as well as the Sony Bravia 8. Keep an eye on the Bravia 8 as it's an excellent W OLED, especially when it comes down in price. Love the Bravia 8. And that's basically my Costco in a nutshell. I will go honorable mention for the Samsung The Frame, as this might be your only shot at getting a new TV. If you convince your wife or partner, spouse, whatever, hey, look, we have artwork. What do you think? It might be something you may have to buy, but it's great to see the frame here. Now, why do I recommend really shopping at Costco other than the membership, which I have had for years? They do have the best return policy in the business, which is so important these days with electronics, actually with anything. It is a no questions asked policy that's been going on for many years, and their selection is much better than it ever has been. Not just TVs, you can also get gaming monitors, gaming PCs, sound systems, computers, all kinds of stuff. So it's amazing to see what they've done over the years. Now, the prices can be matched to any other retailer, whether it's Best Buy or our good friends at Value Electronics, But what I do like about what Costco has is their prices are kind of random in regards to what's left in their inventory. Something like the S90F that we're looking at now, you're not really going to see that anyplace else just hanging out. So I think they will arbitrarily drop their prices to clear out their inventory. I'm not sure anybody can really match that or actually has that around. But I'm Brian. This is Tech Therapy. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you for hanging out with me at Costco. Love you guys. Take care.
It's better to burn out than to fade away. There can be only one.